Jan Salagi is CEO and co-founder of Reflexivity, an AI platform that is designed for institutional investors. So this is fascinating. Tell us, I guess, just generally how it works. And we were talking before that this is not going to replace a money manager, but help them be more efficient?
That's correct. So one of the very difficult things for anybody, a market participant, always has been how to really unlock the insights in the data. And so what Reflexivity really does is help a portfolio manager or an analyst tap into and look through any market event with the data lens. So we use large language models to intermediate between you and a host of analytics and so on.
But all of it is publicly available data?
The data comes from publicly available sources, but they're sources that what we would call premium content, things that they would normally have to subscribe to.
Okay, got it. And is it currently being used right now by institutional investors?
Yeah, we have a number of hedge funds, investment banks, private banks who are currently using it very actively, and the number of users is growing as fast as we're able to allow it.
Have they given you sort of any feedback? Do you have any numbers you can share on how it's improved, I don't know, efficiency or analysis?
So I think no question it improved a lot of productivity. We have examples of cases where it's alerted people to certain events where they were able to reduce risk in time. But by and large, I think it just lets them explore ideas much, much faster. They have a throughput of ideas that they can get through in half or a third of the time.
So this may not replace a portfolio manager, but junior staff?
I think at the moment it's going to make everybody better. I think that, yes, it can act as a junior analyst to a senior portfolio manager. But I think even now you're able to tell your junior analyst, look, I'd like you to do this, and they can do 2 or 3 tasks at the same time as opposed to just toil over the weekend on a single one.
And so we've been talking a lot about data the last 2 months. I mean, we're always talking about data, especially when the Fed is using it as inputs to make interest rate decisions when times are a little difficult to read. But we haven't had any, at least of that government data. And now we've found out that we're not going to get some of it. Yes. There's just going to be gaps in the data. How could your product help fill in those gaps?
It can't fill in, obviously, government data because some of this would be based on surveys and so on. But what it can do is try to think about, okay, have we had similar episodes before? What was the uncertainty then? How did markets handle it and so on? So yes, the government shutdown this time was much longer than any of the previous ones. Nonetheless, we do have data that can at least give you a proxy for the official data, right? You have things like ADP payrolls and so on, and there are some higher frequency survey data that a system like Reflexivity would look into and then say, on the basis of a more limited information, here is the trajectory for the economy. This is where we think we're headed.
And so this is a more specialized model than ChatGPT at its premium features, because this is very specifically targeted for institutional investor information.
No question. First of all, the set of data that it has access to is very different. And then secondly, also the way it's combined and analyzed is very much the way you would expect to happen inside a hedge fund or an investment bank, rather than things that you might just do on the fly on your phone.
You used to work for Stan Druckenmiller. What would you have used this for if you had access to it?
For example, in his case, he would often have really good intuition about inflection points in the market that would come from a micro observation, even though we would then build a macro thesis. What Reflexivity is able to do is then pursue that and say, like, okay, if this logic is correct, where should we see some of the implications? What are some of the assets where these ripple effects should become apparent? And it can do so in an astoundingly short amount of time.